everyone. To be honest with you, I do accept that label. I am a quitter. And I didn't go to medical school. I quit before I even started. So you can definitely understand where I'm coming from. But the reality is that sometimes we make a lot of decisions in our lives based on other people's expectation of us. I know there are many young people in this audience like, yup, that is exactly my story. But sometimes when we make those decisions, we don't really realize the fact that those decisions might have an impact on others later. 13 years ago, I made a decision. And it wasn't an easy one because for those of us that have Nigerian parents and African parents, you see that move that Intifumi did a few minutes ago. If my daughter quits, that's what I got. So our parents plan everything in our entire life, even before you're even conceived. My daughter is going to be a lawyer. My son is going to be a doctor. I'm going to have 4 architects, etc. And for me, I was not that I had any problem with parents supporting and mentoring their children to make right decisions. I think that's really important. And I'm very happy that my father played that huge role in my life. So he picked for me medicine. I got to a point where I believed medicine was what I wanted to do. And there's nothing wrong with doing medicine. But the reality is that you need to come to terms with it and make sure that that's what you want to do. And so everything I did, taking the courses, doing pre-med classes, was all focused on becoming a doctor. And so typically in your 3rd year in university, one of the things that is expected of you is to do sort of like clinical shadowing in the hospital to sort of learn and to make your medical school application much better and stronger, and to show that you have an understanding of the industry and what it takes to be a medical doctor. I chose not to do that. I decided I was going to go to South Africa instead. I've been seeing the theme between Nigeria and South Africa all day today, and I'm like, okay, good. That's a good point. And I decided to go to South Africa to do HIV research. So told my father, got on the plane, spent 4 months in a small town, very close to the hometown of Mandela, actually, working in a university campus. To be honest with you, I think it was the worst 4 months of my life. I was responsible for actually going out there to a public hospital every day to collect blood samples. And I would collect between 10 to 12 blood samples and come back to the lab and do the tests. And I'll find out that like 10 were HIV positive. And you know, when I announced it to everyone in the lab, we have 10, everybody's like, woo! We now have blood that we can work on. And I was like, are these people crazy? Do they not really feel the way I'm feeling right now? And this is something I did every single day. And I was just like, I need to get out of here. I need to do something. This is just not working for me. And so at the end of the summer, when the lead researcher came up to me and said, you know, you really did a good work. We're quite happy working with you. Would you want to come back next summer and maybe even after you graduate? I was like, I think we're doing a great work. I think we're definitely going to change people's lives. But I want to change people's lives now. I don't want to do this long term. So I went back home to the US, and I called my father. And my father said, you followed HIV to South Africa. Now you want to follow HIV to Nigeria. Won't you just focus and finish this medicine and do it well and make money and we'll all be happy? And I was like, but Daddy, that's not really what I want to do. And that's taking a lot of guts when you think about a 20-year-old telling their father, my father was like, hey, who? But I told him, I was like, Daddy, that's not what I want to do. I'm going back to Nigeria. I'm an adult. I'm past 18, and it's time for me to go. So he was like, okay, go, but you will still come back. I said, maybe, we'll see. Let me go and try first. So I left the US, went to Nigeria and said I was going to set up a nonprofit working around HIV and young people, because of course, as a young person, that was the group I identified with. So, but just to give you a little bit of a background for people that don't really understand the epidemic in Nigeria. Nigeria has the second largest number of people living with HIV in the world, second to South Africa. We have over 3 million people living with HIV. 300,000 new infections every single year. And out of this, we have young people accounting for 60%. And young girls between the ages of 15 to 24, which was my age group, were 3 times more likely to be infected. So you can understand how this sort of statistics would resonate with a 20-year-old in Nigeria and realizing all the things that I had to do. So got to Nigeria and said to myself, okay, so what are we going to do? Should we just be providing information to young people and do all of this? And I realized that, yes, that's important. But one of the fundamental root causes of the epidemic, in my opinion, is the silence and the expectation of silence. Silence around, do not talk to young people about sexual issues. They all go out crazy and start having sex like a bunch of wild bunnies. Do not let young people have a voice because they'll challenge elders. And you don't want them in a room. That would be chaos if you let young people do that. And so, as an organization, we decided that, yes, we're going to engage young people. We're going to support them, provide information for them to make responsible decisions, provide access to services. But we wanted young people to be part of that solution and not just as recipients. So what we started doing was working with young people to influence policy. Because you see, when you work with one person, you're making a change in that person's life. But when you change policy, you're creating a ripple effect that covers more people than the one-on-one that you had the opportunity to do. So just one example of a policy that we're working on right now, which is the HIV/AIDS anti-stigma bill. You see our legislators, when they want to pass a bill, they'll pass it like this in a heartbeat. And the anti-gay marriage bill was one of those things. Has absolutely no impact on the lives of Nigerians. None whatsoever. But the anti-stigma bill has been in National Assembly for the past 7 years. Hasn't seen the light of day. And so when we picked up this bill and we started looking at it, we noticed that, hey, talked about stigma in the workplace, employee-employer relationship, and we were like, where are the young people in this? And at that particular point, we had a young girl that was volunteering with our organization who was HIV positive and was denied admission to school on the basis of her HIV status. She had to falsify her test results to be able to get into school. She eventually dropped out, and when she spoke to us and told us all of this, we were like, we need to do something, and this is the perfect opportunity to do it. So we started engaging, working with the House of Rep members, working with the senators, and doing all of the activities targeting them. Getting young people that can vote to also communicate with their legislators to say, look, we do not want this. Mandatory testing is part of the day-to-day life in Nigeria for universities. They've even gone as far as doing virginity testing, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Private schools, yes. And that just shows you the craziness that's happening. And there needs to be laws and policies in place to prevent this outrageous acts by universities. Universities are meant to train and mentor young people, not discriminate against them. And so it's something we're still working on. There was, I think about 2 months ago, there was a public hearing in the Senate, and we stormed National Assembly, a whole bunch of us, and we supported that young girl to actually speak. And she really did make a change. And we're looking at the possibility now to have a separate section on young people and HIV stigma in schools in that bill. So, you know, in terms of looking back, it was a lot of challenges. It's 13 years that I've been in Nigeria, 13 years. My father now has relocated back, even after I have been. But those 13 years, I look back and I realized that we did face a lot of challenges. It's not easy for a 20-year-old to go to Nigeria and say they want to save the world. But the fact is, and I was in a cab with him yesterday, and he said something, and it resonated to me very much, that those activities, those projects that you do, and you face the greatest challenges, when you finally succeed, they are actually the sweetest. And that's where I am right now. And I really thank you for listening to me.